The twin suns of Vorath Prime rose slowly, casting a golden glow across the city that had witnessed the impossible the day before. Fires from minor skirmishes had been extinguished, but the tension in the streets was palpable. Citizens whispered about the humans who had moved through the city like shadows, defeating elite soldiers and securing the artifact without harming the innocent. The old legends were real, and they had returned. High above the city, Commander Rylan watched the skyline from the extraction shuttle. Squad members moved in formation, keeping a vigilant eye on potential threats. The artifact, now secured in the shuttle's containment unit, pulsed with energy. It was the key to maintaining peace across the sector, a prize that could have shifted the balance of power. "Keep your focus," Rylan said to his squads. "We are not safe until we are in orbit. Do not let anyone underestimate us." The legends never fall in the fire. They walk through it and emerge stronger. Kale, always alert, scanned the streets below. "Commander, alien reinforcements are gathering near the eastern gates. They must have realized the artifact is gone." Rylan nodded. "Then we prepare for one last challenge. We will face them only if necessary. Our priority is extraction, not destruction." Despite their careful planning, the alien forces were bold. A squadron of energy-armed fighters emerged from the eastern gate, firing plasma beams toward the shuttles. Terran drones immediately deployed countermeasures, intercepting the beams and creating smokescreens. Humans on the ground coordinated with the shuttles, moving in perfect rhythm to neutralize threats without unnecessary damage. One of the shuttles landed near a narrow canyon to provide ground support. Terrans leaped out, moving with calculated precision to disable reinforcements. Alien soldiers fired wildly, but their attacks were easily anticipated. Every move of the Terrans seemed impossible, defying logic and demonstrating a level of strategy no other species had ever witnessed. Rylan led the charge personally. He moved through the chaos, his squad following with flawless coordination. Small energy nets immobilized alien soldiers. Drones blocked their escape routes, and precision strikes neutralized weapons. Civilians hidden in safe zones watched in awe. The humans were careful, deliberate, and unstoppable. From orbit, Lyra observed in disbelief. Even with full reinforcements, they are untouchable. These are not ordinary soldiers. They are legends reborn. The alien forces, realizing that brute force could not overcome strategy, began to falter. Commander Varric, watching from his central tower, shouted orders in frustration. "Hold your ground, stop them." "They cannot be stopped." Rylan, hearing the comm chatter through intercepted channels, smiled faintly. "They already know. Legends are never stopped by fear or numbers. We are the old legends, and today they have learned it for themselves." In the heart of the city, Squad Beta secured the streets leading to the main plaza. They placed energy disruptors to prevent the aliens from regrouping, ensuring the path to extraction remained clear. The aliens, though desperate, could not match the humans' coordination and discipline. Every ambush was countered before it began, every trap anticipated and avoided. Kyle glanced at the artifact containment unit. "Commander, it is stable. No fluctuations detected. The mission is a success if we can get out safely." Rylan's eyes scanned the horizon. "We will. Nothing can stop us when we move with purpose. We face fire, but we walk through it. That is what makes us legends." The final confrontation approached as the last group of elite alien guards attempted a desperate charge toward the extraction point. They were fast, strong, and determined, but Terrans had trained for exactly this scenario. Using terrain, drones, and coordinated strikes, they neutralized the threat with efficiency. The aliens were overwhelmed, not by numbers but by intelligence, skill, and courage. Civilians began to emerge cautiously, seeing the humans fight not for destruction, but for order and protection. Whispers of hope spread across the city. They fight with honor. They are real. They are the legends. Rylan guided his squads back to the shuttles. The artifact pulsed softly, contained safely. Every soldier moved with purpose, covering each other, ensuring no one was left behind. The extraction was flawless, the culmination of years of training, experience, and unyielding courage. As the shuttles rose into the sky, Lyra and Varric watched from the towers and orbiting ships. The humans had not only succeeded, they had demonstrated something far greater than technology or numbers. They had shown courage, intelligence, and discipline that inspired awe even in the hearts of their enemies. Rylan looked down at the city below. He felt a quiet pride. The mission had been accomplished with precision and care. Civilians were unharmed, the artifact secured, and the aliens left with a lasting impression of human skill and honor. Kale turned to him. "Commander, do you think they will ever forget us?" Rylan smiled faintly. "No. Once humans walk through fire and leave unharmed, legends are born. Today, Vorath Prime has seen what humans are capable of. They will tell stories of courage, skill, and honor. And generations from now, they will remember this day as the return of the old legends." The shuttles moved beyond the city's atmosphere, leaving behind a world changed forever. Fires from minor skirmishes had burned out, but the impression of human courage and intelligence would last generations. Civilians peered skyward, whispering in awe, knowing that the legends had returned not as myths, but as living proof. In the quiet of space, Rylan addressed his team. "We did what humans do best. We faced fire and emerged victorious. We protected the innocent, secured the objective, and proved that legends never die. Remember this day, soldiers. It is a day that will be remembered across the stars." Kyle nodded, eyes reflecting the stars. "Commander, it feels incredible to be part of the legends." Rylan placed a hand on his shoulder. "It is more than that. We are not just soldiers. We are humans. Courage, intelligence, and honor define us. That is why we are remembered. That is why the galaxy respects us. That is why we are legends." Far below, alien leaders regrouped in the city. Some argued for surrender, others for negotiation. All realized one truth. Humans were not just warriors. They were a force of strategy, courage, and honor unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Vorath Prime would never be the same. Back on the shuttles, the artifact pulsed steadily, secured in containment. Terrans knew their mission had succeeded beyond expectations. They had faced fire, they had walked through it, and they had emerged victorious, leaving behind a story that would be told for generations. As they moved further into space, Rylan looked at the stars. The galaxy is vast, full of dangers and challenges, but humans have always faced the impossible. Legends are not built in peace, they are forged in fire. And wherever there is fire, humans will walk into it and emerge stronger. Kale glanced at the crew around him. "Commander, where to next?" Rylan's eyes held the weight of experience and hope. "Wherever the galaxy needs us, wherever courage and skill are required. Humans are legends, and legends never rest." The shuttles disappeared into the void, leaving Vorath Prime behind. The citizens, standing in the streets and watching the skies, whispered their own stories. "The legends have walked among us. They are real, they are human, and we will never forget." For the Terrans, the mission was complete. They had faced fire, proven their skill, protected the innocent, and secured their legacy. The old legends were alive, moving through the stars, and the galaxy would never forget the day humans returned to walk into fire and show the universe what it meant to be a legend. And far across the stars, other worlds listened, watched, and began to whisper the same words. Humans have returned. The legends are here. The story of courage, skill, and honor was not over. It had only just begun. The twin suns of Krylon 9 burned relentlessly over the endless desert plains. Sand stretched farther than the eye could see, rippling like liquid gold under the hot light. The Vorathi warriors, tall and powerful, moved across the dunes with confidence. They were the strongest hunters in the galaxy, feared not only for their skill but for their strict code of honor. Amid their ranks, a lone figure struggled. He was smaller, weaker, and awkward in comparison to the muscular Vorathi. His dark hair clung to his forehead with sweat, and his hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the strange tools he carried. This was Ethan Vale, a young Terran sent from Earth as part of a small exploration mission. Unlike the Vorathi, humans were not born for hunting or survival in such harsh conditions. They relied on intelligence, creativity, and courage, qualities that did not always earn immediate respect here. Ethan had arrived with hope and curiosity, dreaming of adventure among the stars. But reality hit him the moment he stepped onto Krylon 9. The Vorathi did not hide their judgment. "Look at him," one young hunter whispered to another, his sharp eyes studying Ethan's tentative movements. "Does he think he belongs here?" Ethan felt the eyes on him and tried to straighten his back. He carried himself with what he hoped was confidence, but every misstep, every stumble in the sand seemed to confirm the Vorathi's opinion, that humans were weak and clumsy. The first test came quickly. The elders of the Varathi had gathered to demonstrate their hunting skills in a ceremonial arena. A massive beast with scales like bronze and claws sharp as blades had been summoned from the desert. Each Varathi hunter approached it with precision, striking with lethal speed. The young Terran was expected to participate, but not to fight directly. His task was to assist by activating the energy pulse traps, devices designed to channel raw desert energy, to guide the creature safely into the arena for display. It seemed simple enough. Ethan followed the instructions carefully, checking the alignment of the energy nodes and preparing the activation sequence. His palms were sweaty, but he kept his focus. Then, as the beast lunged into the arena, Ethan's nervous fingers slipped. A sudden surge of energy shot across the sand far beyond the intended range. The arena trembled. A wall of sand collapsed, knocking over some of the ceremonial markers. The beast roared in surprise and chaos erupted. The Varathi warriors stared at him in disbelief. The elders' eyes narrowed, their voices booming across the arena. "What have you done, Terran?" one elder demanded, his tone sharp and commanding. "This was a simple task, and yet you bring shame upon yourself and your people." Another elder stepped forward, his expression filled with disdain. "Terrans are soft. They lack strength. They lack honor. This one proves it clearly." Ethan's face burned. He wanted to explain, to say it was a mistake. But words felt useless against the Varathi's scorn. The crowd's laughter cut through the heat of the day like sharp knives. He tried to keep his chin up, but inside his pride was shattered. Later, when the crowd had dispersed, Ethan walked alone across the dunes. The desert wind whispered around him, carrying with it the scent of sand and distant rock. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from frustration. He thought of his family back on Earth, of the long journey that had brought him here. He had not come to be laughed at. He had come to learn, to prove that humans could survive and thrive even in the harshest worlds. "I will not fail again," he whispered to himself, gripping his utility belt. "I will find a way to show them what Terrans can do." That night, under the twin suns' dim glow after they had set, Ethan studied the stars. Krylon 9's sky was clearer than Earth's, the constellations unfamiliar but beautiful. He imagined distant worlds where humans had ventured, fought, and survived. He imagined himself standing tall, respected for his courage and his mind. Meanwhile, in the Varathi encampment, some warriors debated quietly. A few had seen the Terran's hesitation, but they had also seen something else. His persistence, his refusal to give up even when shamed. "Perhaps he is not like the others," Kale Rix, the youngest of the elite hunters, said softly. His eyes, sharp as the desert hawk, studied Ethan's trail through the sand. "He may yet have something to show us." But the elders shook their heads. "Persistence is not enough. Terrans are weak, and the weak do not survive our world." Ethan had no knowledge of these conversations. He only knew that the desert was unforgiving and that his first day had been disastrous. Yet as he prepared a small camp near a ridge of rocks, he began to plan. He examined the energy pulse device, thinking through what went wrong. He reviewed the beast's movements in his mind. He thought about traps, terrain, and timing. He realized something important. He could not compete with the Varathi in sheer strength, but he could compete in strategy, creativity, and adaptability. These were human strengths. The next morning, Ethan rose early. The sun was a pale disk over the horizon, and the desert was quiet except for the whisper of wind over sand. He packed his tools carefully, reviewing his plan. Today he would explore the dunes further, observing the Varathi hunters from a distance. He would study their techniques, the way they moved, how they tracked creatures. Hours passed. Ethan moved silently, watching, learning, taking notes in his mind. He noticed patterns. The way a Varathi would pause to scent the wind, the subtle shifts in posture that signaled danger, the clever use of natural rock formations as ambush points. By midday, he had mapped out a small route of his own through the dunes. He tested a few traps using sand, rocks, and simple energy pulses. Nothing dangerous, just experiments. Each attempt taught him something new. He smiled quietly to himself. Even though the Varathi had shamed him, he realized that survival was not about avoiding mistakes. It was about learning from them. As he returned to his camp at sunset, Ethan spotted a movement near a distant ridge. A Varathi hunter was practicing alone, moving with speed and grace. Ethan crouched low, fascinated. This hunter, Kale Rix, seemed almost like a shadow, a master of the desert. Ethan watched every step, every motion. He wanted to understand, not copy. He wanted to adapt what he saw to human methods. K.L. Rix noticed him finally. The hunter's eyes were sharp, studying the Terran who dared observe him. Instead of showing anger, K.L. Rix tilted his head, curiosity flickering in his gaze. He could see something unusual in the human, something beyond fear or clumsiness. Ethan, unaware, packed his gear and began walking back. But K.L. Rix followed silently, keeping his distance, intrigued by the Terran's determination. That night, as Ethan slept under the desert stars, he dreamed of the hunt. He saw himself moving through the dunes, not as a clumsy outsider, but as a clever hunter, outsmarting the desert, predicting the movements of predators, surviving against all odds. When he woke, the determination in his heart had grown stronger. The shame of the first day was no longer a burden, it was a challenge. He would return to the arena. He would learn. He would survive. And one day, perhaps, the Varathi would look at him not as a weak outsider, but as a worthy hunter, a brother in the desert. Ethan did not know that K.L. Rix, the fiercest young Varathi hunter, had already decided to watch him closely. Something told the warrior that this Terran was different, perhaps weaker in body, but stronger in ways the Varathi had yet to understand. And so, under the twin suns of Krylon 9, a small spark of hope ignited. The young Terran, shamed and ridiculed, began the journey that would change how his people, and the Varathi, viewed humanity forever. The morning sun rose slowly over the dunes of Krylon 9, casting long shadows across the endless desert. Ethan Vale, the young Terran, woke with determination. His first day had ended in shame, but now he felt a quiet fire burning inside him. He had survived, observed, and learned. Today he would take his first step toward proving himself. In the central Varathi encampment, the elders were gathered in a circle, discussing the Terran's place among them. They still saw him as weak and unworthy, but curiosity had begun to spark in a few of the younger warriors. One elder, tall and imposing, finally spoke. "This human persists," he said, his voice low and steady. "He has failed, yet he returns to the dunes. Perhaps he deserves a test." The decision was made. Ethan would face the dune hunt, a trial reserved for those seeking honor. It was not just a test of strength, but of skill, intelligence, and endurance. The dune hunt was legendary among the Varathi. Many hunters had tried it and failed. It was known for its shifting sands, hidden predator nests, and deadly storms. Ethan was summoned to the council. His hands shook slightly as he stepped forward, but his eyes were steady. The elders watched him carefully. "You will survive the dune hunt," the lead elder said. "You will track the desert predators, avoid their attacks, and return with proof of your skill. If you succeed, you may earn a place of respect among us. If you fail—" His voice trailed, leaving the consequences unspoken but clear. Ethan bowed. "I will not fail." Armed with a small pack of tools, energy pulse devices, and his human ingenuity, Ethan set off across the golden dunes. The desert stretched endlessly, quiet except for the whisper of wind over sand. He moved cautiously, remembering the lessons of observation from the day before. Hours passed. Ethan encountered his first challenge, a series of sand pits, deceptively shallow at first glance but capable of swallowing a man whole. One wrong step could mean a broken leg or worse. He studied the patterns of the sand, testing the edges with his staff. Slowly, carefully, he crossed the pits, marking safe paths in his mind for the return journey. The sun climbed higher, and the heat pressed down on him. Sweat ran down his face and his clothes clung to his skin. His strength alone could not carry him through. He had to think. He had to adapt. Then he spotted movement on the horizon, a predator unlike any he had seen before. Its body was sleek, armored with shimmering scales, and its legs moved with terrifying speed. It was a Varathi desert beast known for hunting in packs, yet this one seemed alone. Ethan froze, remembering the Varathi's warning. Respect the predator. Do not underestimate it. Survive through skill, not pride. He observed the creature's pattern, noting how it shifted with the dunes, using shadows to mask its approach. Then, carefully, he set a small trap using his energy pulse device, designed not to harm but to redirect the predator's movement. When the creature stepped into the trap, a pulse of light and sound startled it, sending it leaping away in the opposite direction. Ethan exhaled slowly. He had survived the first encounter using only his mind. A small smile appeared on his face. As the day continued, he faced other hazards. There were sudden sandstorms that rose like walls, hiding the horizon and making every step uncertain. Ethan learned to read the wind, finding shelter behind natural ridges and moving with patience rather than speed. He discovered quicksand pits hidden beneath the sand, avoiding them by observing subtle changes in texture and color. By evening, exhaustion weighed on him, but he had survived multiple threats. He found a safe place to rest among a cluster of rocks. While tending to minor injuries, he reflected on the day. Every mistake, every careful observation had taught him something new. The Varathi had strength, but humans had intelligence, curiosity, and resilience. That was his advantage. The night was quiet, but Ethan sensed that he was not entirely alone. A faint trail in the sand suggested another presence, a Varathi hunter moving silently nearby. It was Kale Rix, the fiercest young warrior Ethan had noticed before. Kale Rix was observing, not to attack but to study. Ethan realized this and allowed himself a small grin. "Curious, aren't you?" he whispered, though the wind carried his words away. The next day, Ethan's challenge increased. He encountered a pack of smaller predators, agile and cunning. He needed to move carefully, using his traps and clever thinking. One predator lunged suddenly from behind a ridge. Instinctively, Ethan rolled aside and triggered a sand trap that caused the creature to stumble. He ran along a narrow path, using the terrain to guide the predators into a series of harmless obstacles, demonstrating not brute force but ingenuity. By the afternoon, word of his unusual tactics had spread among a few Varathi hunters. Some watched from a distance, whispering with curiosity and awe. They had never seen a Terran survive in such a manner. Finally, Ethan reached a ridge overlooking a canyon, where the largest predator of the hunt was known to roam. The creature was massive, with scales that reflected the sun like mirrors and claws sharp enough to pierce stone. It had been sighted only rarely, and many Varathi hunters avoided it, fearing the danger. Ethan assessed the situation. He could not face the creature head-on. He needed to combine his understanding of the terrain, his traps, and his careful observation. He studied the patterns of the canyon, the movement of shadows, and the predator's behavior. Slowly, he set a series of traps along likely paths. When the predator appeared, it was as if the desert itself had turned against it. It was guided by Ethan's clever devices, eventually leading it to a safe containment area he had prepared, a natural canyon pit, reinforced with energy pulses. The creature roared, thrashing, but it was unharmed. Ethan had survived the ultimate test of the hunt using brains rather than brawn. As the sun began to set, painting the desert in red and gold, Kale Rix approached him openly for the first time. The fierce hunter's presence was imposing, but there was no hostility in his eyes, only respect. "You survived," Kale Rix said, his deep voice carrying across the sand. "Not like any Terran I've ever seen." Ethan nodded, exhausted but proud. "I had to. I cannot match your strength, but I can use my mind." Kale Rix studied him closely, then inclined his head. "Perhaps that is what makes you strong. Strength is not only in muscle. It is also in survival, in patience, and in the courage to face what others fear." The words resonated with Ethan. He had always known humans had different strengths, but hearing it from a Varathi, especially Kale Rix, felt like a first step toward respect. As night fell over Krylon 9, Ethan set up a small camp on a ledge overlooking the desert. He cleaned his gear, tended minor injuries, and reflected on what he had learned. The Varathi had underestimated him, but he had survived where many would have failed. Somewhere nearby, Kale Rix watched silently, moving like a shadow across the dunes. The young hunter had seen many challenges, but there was something about Ethan Vale that intrigued him. Not weakness, not arrogance, but determination, cleverness, and an unusual calm under pressure. Ethan did not know that this silent observation would mark the beginning of an unusual alliance. Kale Rix, the fiercest hunter among the Varathi, was beginning to see the Terran not as an outsider, but as a potential equal. And so, under the twin moons of Krylon 9, the young Terran prepared for the next phase of his journey. He had survived the Dune Hunt's first trials, but greater challenges awaited. Survival was only the beginning. If he continued to learn, To adapt and to face the desert with courage and intelligence, he might one day earn the respect of the Vorathi, and perhaps even the acknowledgement of Kale Rix as something more than just an observer. Ethan lay on the sand, staring at the stars, feeling a quiet confidence growing within him. The desert had tested him, but it had also taught him that humans could thrive where others doubted. Tomorrow he would take another step. And the Vorathi, whether they admitted it or not, would be watching. The twin suns rose over the desert once again, painting Krylon 9 in shades of gold and crimson. Ethan Vale stirred from his modest camp on the rocky ridge, muscles aching from yesterday's trials, but his spirit was stronger than ever. He had survived the Dune Hunt's early challenges, navigating sandstorms, quicksand, and predators larger than any Earth creature. Yet he knew the true test had only just begun. From a distance, a shadow moved across the dunes, swift and silent. It was Kale Rix, the young Vorathi hunter who had watched Ethan's progress. The warrior's curiosity had grown into cautious respect. Kale Rix had never seen a human survive in the desert in such a way. He was eager to see how far the Terran's intelligence and resourcefulness could take him. Ethan, unaware of the observer, packed his few belongings and began moving toward a canyon known to harbor the desert's most cunning predators. Today, his goal was not only survival, but to prove he could anticipate danger before it struck. Hours passed as he crossed the shifting sands, scanning for footprints and tracks. Examining the subtle changes in terrain, he discovered an unusual pattern of predator movements suggesting a hidden lair nearby. Most hunters would charge forward relying on speed and strength, but Ethan knew patience and observation were his greatest weapons. Suddenly, the ground beneath him vibrated. A creature, sleek with obsidian scales and eyes like molten gold, emerged from the sand. It moved with terrifying speed, faster than any predator he had encountered. Ethan froze, assessing his options. The beast lunged, and instinctively Ethan rolled aside, narrowly avoiding its claws. He triggered a small energy pulse trap, causing a burst of light and sound that startled the creature. It recoiled but did not retreat entirely. The predator circled him, testing his reaction. Ethan thought quickly. Using a combination of traps and terrain, he guided the creature toward a narrow canyon passage where it could be contained safely without harm. He crouched low, timing each move carefully, and finally led the predator into a natural pit reinforced with energy pulses. Breathing heavily, he wiped sweat from his brow. He had survived another encounter, but this time the exhaustion was different. He felt the thrill of using intelligence over brute force. Kale Rix stepped out of the shadows. The young Vorathi warrior's presence was imposing, but he did not attack. Instead, he studied Ethan with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "You are clever," Kale Rix said, his voice deep and even. Most would have tried to fight and failed. "You used your mind," Ethan nodded, tired but proud. "I cannot match your strength, but I can think. That is how I survive." Kale Rix circled him, observing. "Humans are strange. You do not fear failure, yet you do not rush. You learn. That is rare here." Ethan smiled faintly. "I have no choice. If I fail, I die, so I must be careful and clever." For a long moment, they regarded each other in silence. Kale Rix had tested countless hunters in the desert, but something about this Terran intrigued him. He saw not weakness, not arrogance, but resilience and adaptability. "I will test you further," Kale Rix said finally. "Come with me." Ethan followed cautiously. They moved together through the dunes, Kale Rix teaching without words, demonstrating how to read the subtle shifts of sand, the tracks of predators, and the hidden dangers of the desert. Ethan watched carefully, absorbing every detail. By midday, they reached a narrow canyon lined with jagged rocks and deep shadows. Kale Rix paused, signaling Ethan to wait. The air was thick with tension. A pair of predators, larger and faster than any Ethan had yet faced, emerged from the canyon's darkness. Kale Rix stepped forward, testing the creatures, but did not engage fully. Ethan realized this was a challenge not of strength, but of strategy. He observed their movements and patterns, noting how they reacted to Kale Rix's presence. Then he acted. Using a combination of traps and clever maneuvering, Ethan guided the predators along a path Kale Rix had subtly prepared. The creatures became confused and cautious, and the two humans, one alien, one Terran, worked in tandem, anticipating each move, avoiding harm while maintaining control. When the predators finally retreated, Kale Rix nodded in approval. "You are learning quickly," he said. "Your methods are unusual but effective. Few could do what you just did." Ethan felt a surge of pride. For the first time, a Vorathi warrior had recognized his skill. He realized that survival was not about being the strongest. It was about thinking, observing, and adapting. The day continued with more trials. Ethan and Kale Ricks moved through rocky passes, across shifting sands and into hidden valleys. Each obstacle tested their endurance, judgment, and coordination. Ethan learned to anticipate the desert's moods, the wind, the shadows, and the subtle cues of the predators. Kale Ricks began to speak more, offering advice and guidance. Do not rely solely on your tools. The desert will challenge you in ways no device can anticipate. Watch, listen, move with it, not against it. Ethan absorbed every word. He had learned quickly that survival on Krylon 9 required respect for the environment and the creatures within it. Strength alone was useless. By late afternoon, they arrived at a canyon rim overlooking a massive expanse of dunes. The sight was breathtaking, waves of sand stretching endlessly with predators roaming below. Ethan felt a mix of awe and determination. Kale Ricks turned to him. Tomorrow you will face the true test. A predator unlike any other, one that has survived countless hunts. You must use everything you have learned, your mind, your patience, and your courage. Only then will you prove yourself. Ethan's heart raced. The challenge was terrifying, but he no longer felt fear in the same way. He had survived the dune hunt, observed the Vorathi hunters, and earned the tentative respect of Kale Ricks. Now, he would face the ultimate predator. That night, under the glow of Krylon 9's twin moons, Ethan reflected on the journey so far. He had been shamed, mocked, and underestimated, but he had also survived, learned, and grown stronger in ways the Vorathi did not yet understand. Kale Ricks, watching from a distance, felt a strange connection to the human. He had always been a lone hunter, trusting only his strength and skill. Yet this Terran had something different: adaptability, intelligence, and courage. Perhaps this human was more than he appeared. Ethan lay beneath the stars, preparing mentally for the trials to come. He knew that survival alone would not earn full respect. To truly prove himself, he would need to face danger directly, outsmart the desert's fiercest creatures, and show that humans were capable of greatness in ways the Vorathi had not imagined. And as he drifted into a light sleep, he dreamed not of fear or failure, but of strategy, of traps carefully laid, of movements anticipated, and of a future where Terrans might stand not just among the Vorathi, but as equals in courage, skill, and honor. The desert was silent, but the challenges ahead were anything but. Tomorrow would test everything Ethan had learned. Yet he felt ready. For the first time, he believed that he could not only survive on Krylon 9, but thrive. The desert of Krylon 9 stretched endlessly under the twin suns, burning gold and red into the sand. Ethan Vale moved cautiously, every sense alert. Today was the day he would face the greatest challenge of the dune hunt, the true predator, a creature feared by all Vorathi hunters. Its size, speed, and cunning had ended many lives. Many had tried to defeat it and failed. Ethan's companion, Kale Ricks, walked beside him, silent and focused. The Vorathi hunter was an imposing figure, muscles rippling beneath dark armor-like skin, eyes sharp as the desert hawk. He had watched Ethan closely over the past days, intrigued by the human's resilience, ingenuity, and ability to learn quickly. You must understand, Kale Ricks said quietly, his deep voice barely rising above the wind. This predator is unlike anything you have faced. Strength alone will not save you. You must use your mind, your traps, and your courage, and you must trust me. Ethan nodded. I will. I've survived by thinking, not fighting. That will not change now. They moved across the dunes, careful not to leave traces that would alert the predator. Ethan observed the landscape, noting ridges, shadows, and the subtle signs of hidden caves. He had learned to read the desert like a living map. The predator would rely on stealth and speed. He would rely on planning and cleverness. After hours of tense movement, they reached a canyon deep and narrow. The entrance was marked by claw marks, evidence of the predator's power. The air was heavy, still, as if the desert itself waited in anticipation. Kale Ricks stopped and pointed to a small ridge. We wait here. Watch its patterns. Learn its movements. Only then will you act. Ethan crouched, muscles tense, eyes scanning. He saw the predator emerge from the shadows. Massive, with obsidian scales that shimmered in the sun, eyes glowing with intelligence. Its claws were long and its teeth glinted like polished metal. It moved with a grace and strength that was terrifying, yet calculated. This was no mindless beast. It was a hunter like the Varathi themselves. The predator circled the area, sniffing, testing, and observing. Ethan noticed patterns. The slight hesitation before it jumped, the way it used shadows to hide, the rhythm of its movements. Slowly, he began setting traps along its path, using the natural terrain to guide it. Some were energy pulses to startle and redirect. Others were sand traps and obstacles designed to slow the creature without harming it. Cale Rix watched silently, impressed. Ethan's strategy was precise, careful, and clever. He was not trying to dominate the predator through strength, but to outthink it, a concept unfamiliar to most Varathi hunters. The predator lunged suddenly, faster than Ethan anticipated. He rolled aside, triggering a trap that sent a pulse of energy behind it. The creature twisted in midair, landing carefully, eyes fixed on him. It snarled, a deep vibrating sound that shook the canyon walls. Ethan's heart raced. This was the moment he had trained for, observed for, and prepared for. He remembered every lesson from the previous days: patience, observation, and careful timing. Step by step he moved, baiting the predator into the traps he had set along the canyon's narrow paths. Hours passed. The predator tested him relentlessly. It leaped, dodged, and circled, always calculating, always adapting. Ethan adapted with it, learning its habits, predicting its movements, using the terrain to his advantage. The sun climbed high, then dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows that the predator used for cover. Cale Rix finally spoke. "You move like a hunter, human. Not like those who depend on strength. You move like one of us." Ethan allowed himself a small smile, even as his body ached. "I've had no choice. Survival requires thinking, not brute force." As night approached, Ethan set the final trap, a pit reinforced with energy pulses, hidden cleverly beneath sand and shadows. The predator, confident and cunning, followed his trail. At the perfect moment, it stepped into the pit. The energy pulses activated, creating a light barrier that guided the predator safely into containment. It roared, thrashing, but was unharmed. Ethan exhaled, dropping to his knees, exhaustion washing over him. He had done it. He had faced the true predator and survived. But more than survival, he had achieved something no one had expected. He had outsmarted a creature that had humbled the finest Varathi hunters. Cale Rix approached, his expression unreadable. Then slowly he nodded. "You have proven yourself, human. Not only in survival, but in skill, intelligence, and courage. You are no longer a Terran to be underestimated. You are worthy." Ethan felt a surge of pride. For the first time, a Varathi, the fiercest among them, had acknowledged him as something more than weak or clumsy. He had earned respect through intellect, strategy, and perseverance. The next day, they returned to the Varathi encampment. News of the predator's capture spread quickly. Warriors whispered in awe. Elders examined Ethan, their expressions shifting from skepticism to interest. "You have faced the greatest threat of Krylon 9 and survived," the lead elder said. "Many have failed where you have succeeded. This proves what few believe, that humans may possess qualities beyond their physical weakness." Cale Rix stood beside Ethan, silent but firm. The warrior's presence was a shield of respect, signaling to the other hunters that the Terran was now a peer in courage and skill. Ethan, still tired and sunburned, allowed himself a quiet smile. "I did what I had to do," he said simply. "I survived and learned. That is all." Cale Rix placed a massive hand on Ethan's shoulder. "That is enough. You have earned not only survival, but recognition. Your methods, your courage, and your mind are as strong as any blade." For the first time, Ethan felt fully accepted, not as a weak outsider, but as someone who had proven himself in a world designed to test strength, endurance, and intelligence. The elders called a council that evening. They spoke of Ethan's accomplishments, of his ability to survive where others would have perished, and of the cleverness he displayed in facing the predator. Whispers of respect spread among the warriors. Even those who had mocked him before now looked at him with curiosity and a hint of admiration. Cale Rix finally addressed the council. "This human has shown courage, intelligence, and respect for life. He has survived the dune hunt and faced the true predator. He has earned our acknowledgement." The council murmured, some skeptical, some intrigued. But Cale Rix's words carried weight. The young Terran had done the impossible. Ethan stood quietly, aware of the attention but keeping his humility. He knew that respect was earned not by boasting but by action. He had faced the desert, the predators, and the Vorathi judgment, and he had succeeded through skill, patience, and courage. That night, under the twin moons of Krylon 9, Ethan sat beside Kale Rix. The desert was quiet and the stars reflected like scattered diamonds across the sky. "You have done more than survive," Kale Rix said, his voice low. "You have proven that humans are capable of more than we expected. You think, adapt, and endure. These qualities are rare even among my people." Ethan nodded. "I have no choice. Strength alone is not enough. I have to use my mind, learn, and adapt. That is how we survive." Kelrick smiled faintly. "Perhaps that is why I am beginning to see you as something more than a stranger. Perhaps as a companion, a hunter in your own right." Ethan looked at the Vorathi, understanding the weight of his words. This was not friendship yet, but it was a recognition, a bridge between human ingenuity and Vorathi strength. He had earned the first step toward acceptance and perhaps toward something greater. The desert winds whispered around them, carrying the promise of new challenges. Ethan knew the journey was far from over. The dune hunt had tested him, but the Vorathi world still held dangers, mysteries, and opportunities to prove humanity's worth. For the first time, he felt confident that he was not just surviving, he was beginning to thrive. And Krylon 9, harsh and unforgiving, had become a proving ground for a Terran who refused to be underestimated.